My name is Roger Hendricks Simon. I was just 80 years young on Friday, October 21st. I have the pleasure of sitting with Miss Sissy Gamache yet again. We've had 2 or 3 of these sit-downs and they have been always enjoyable. I have been a theater director, actor, and theater teacher for most of my life. I have a studio called the Simon Studio, which has been in New York City and now is up there in the stratosphere also, as most acting and theater and film studios are because of Zoom and the pandemic. So we're both live and on Zoom. I've had a studio for 45 years. This is our 45th year. We train directors, playwrights, screenwriters, as well as actors. We train them all together rather than individually. And I've always felt that as a trainer, that's an important thing. I have trained just actors. And when I went to the Yale School of Drama, I started as an acting major, and then I switched into directing because I felt I liked the whole picture rather than just being an actor in a production. But I soon felt that I liked the idea of collaboration, not just in a production, but in training. And I felt that training was something that should be a collaborative thing rather than an individual thing where you're in a room with just a bunch of actors or directors or writers. So the training has been most of my life as something that I always wanted to do. I come from a family, though, of artists. My father was a industrial designer, and before that, when he was young, he did all the posters for Broadway, for George Abbott, for Mike Todd, for many, many producers of the 1930s and 40s. He did the first program for Radio City when it opened. So my father was very much part of theater and part of film. So I grew up in that atmosphere. My mother was also an actress and a kind of jack of all trades, designed hats, some costume work and what have you. So it was always in my family. My grandmother was an artist. So I grew up in this. My father was also a concert pianist professionally. He gave it up when he was young and just went into used his artwork. When I went to high school, I had the good fortune to have the best director I ever have had. His name was John Hemmerly, and I went to Scarsdale High School in Westchester County. So this was always something I knew I wanted to do. This was not something I just kind of came by. I think I was lucky that way. I knew what I wanted to do, always. And I was always geared in that direction. Sports was always a big part of my life, which is ironic because nobody in my family really took to it. But I was always interested and loved sports. So that was a part of my life. And even now, at the age of 80, I play regularly. I play in tournaments around the country. I play senior softball, and I love it. And I love all of sports, but particularly baseball and softball. And I see the correlation between sports and making theater and film, the physical work, the concentration, the performance aspect. They all are related to both, and I always have loved both. Theater was always my background. It's still where I come from. I was trained in the theater. Film has been something in the last 15 years, and I love film, and I love doing it. So filmmaking now, I might be more known now as a film actor, which is ironic because I never really did film until probably I was in my late 60s. My first film was The Sublet. And that came about because one of my kids, Dan Simon, is a filmmaker and introduced me to all these young filmmakers. So again, I always joke that if you really want to keep working, have kids, you'll get work. always have kids, you'll keep working, they'll always cast you. And my daughter, who was a professional ballerina for many years with ABT, American Ballet Theater, the Joffrey Theater in Chicago, said, "Dad, I'm doing Nutcracker. We need a Drosselmeyer. You're going to do Drosselmeyer." So 3 years ago, I made my debut as a professional ballet man, playing the role of Drosselmeyer opposite my daughter, who was Sugarplum. A great thrill to be on the stage with my daughter and to be dancing. So I feel very lucky. I feel I'm 80 years young, I hope. And I feel there used to be a TV show called Life Begins at 80. Back in the 1950s, a friend of mine produced it. And I'm hoping that life does begin at 80, and I do believe there's a good chance it does. So, Sarah Levine Simon was my wife for nearly 45 years. We were partners in life, not just husband and wife in terms of marital relations, but as artists. And some of the best times I had as an artist was collaborating with Sarah Levine Simon. I met her in 1971 on a rooftop at a cast party for the Chelsea Theater that used to work out of Brooklyn Academy of Music, where I was a director. And there she was, full blown. And so we started to see each other, and we got married in 1972. We had 3 children, 3 beautiful children together. She was an opera singer when I met her, and my collaboration at that time was just listening and being encouraging, because she needed that encouragement. I think it's a tough field, opera, and she was needing positive stuff. And so I love music. My father was a concert pianist. I always loved classical music. I thought she had a great voice, and I always tried to, she'd ask for opinions, and I would try to give her my unexpert opinion, because I'm not a professional musician. So that was many years as a musician. The collaboration changed, though, because the writing began. I should say it continued. She never really didn't write, but there was a time where she started to just really write, and that was, I would say, the last 5 years of her life, maybe even less. She finally discovered something that she really was good at and really loved, more than even, not that she didn't love music, but she knew that writing was something she could control totally. She did not like the idea of living in the opera world. She didn't like living out of a suitcase. I remember, Sissy, that she and I would go to Europe, because I was directing in the 1970s for state theaters in Europe, and I would take Sarah and Noah, our first son, and I would be directing those productions in Europe. And on the off day, we would pack Noah up in our little snuggly and get on a train. We were I remember Arnhem one time, directing a show in Arnhem. And we would go into Germany and we would audition, Sarah would audition for opera companies, because at that time in the 70s, if you wanted to have a career in opera, most Americans had to go to Germany to start. There just wasn't enough here. And although Sarah had been studying with Jenny Turrell at Juilliard, she had very mixed emotions about the life. And I could feel it. I could feel there was a conflict whether she really wanted to do this. But she kept saying, I do want to do it, I do want to do it. And I could feel there was some tug of resistance. She did not like the life of living the opera world and the kind of...
I'm sorry for interrupting. The unpredictable element, perhaps, that artists we face on the daily basis, the sense of unpredictability, the sense that you don't know what's going to happen, the sense that when it's going to be your next gig, the sense of...
You know what? I think it was mostly... not being grounded in a place. She loved having a home where she could cook, where she could create a family. And the world of opera is living out of a suitcase. That was something that really was not something she loved. She didn't like that world of the traveling from place to place and all of that. So I think in the end, it was also the rejection, because Sarah was very beautiful, but she was small. And opera singers are largely quite big. And, and physically, she didn't fit a lot of the casting. And I think it bothered her that she had no control over that. So I think when we got to Europe, she started getting offers. She got a contract in Hamburg. And I said, Sarah, this is marvelous. This is incredible. You know, this is what you've always worked for. And she said, no, I don't think I'm going to take it. I said, Sarah, we've been working for this. We've been auditioning. We've been, you know, they want you. You have an agent. That well, what about you? What about Noah? I said, we would come and visit all the time, but this is your opportunity. She said also Germany was not the place because of her being Jewish and because of what she felt about what had happened in the war. She felt uncomfortable, and there was just, everything seemed negative. And she said, no, we're not going to do this. And I knew then that I had been right in thinking she really never really wanted to do it, but she loved music. The music was what she loved. So she continued that singing. She made her own concerts, produced her own concerts. She sang at Carnegie Hall. She would sing all over and produce new composers and sing their work. And I was always there. And it was satisfying up to a point. But late in her life, she got sick. She had first back problems and had finally surgery after a long time of not knowing what it was, and that took 3 years. And as soon as that was finally solved, she discovered cancer in the breast, and she had a mastectomy. And I think at that point, something happened. And I think she said, I don't know what's going to happen after this. It could be, you know, the end. Who knows? I said, no, you're going to be fine. She said, yeah. I'm going to do what I want now. I want to write. And I said, sure, we're going to write. You're going to write. And she always would start things and then change and go in another direction in certain areas. She was a Renaissance person. She was she was a gourmet cook. She was well-read and knowledgeable in many, many different fields. Everything from science, literature, music, law. She just studied everything. in a way, it was exhausting how much she would do. And this time she said, I want to write. I said, yeah, okay. Figuring this was just something that was going to be another, sideline or something that she was going to explore. But then it took off. A novel was fully written very quickly. She had always written short stories and poems. And screenplays, which were largely, written but unproduced because they were too big. We did a number of her short plays and her short films. Danny and I would direct and produce them, which was very satisfying. But then the writing really started, meaning her schedule was to get up every morning at 4 a.m. She would go down and make breakfast. 4:30, she'd go into her office and start to write, except for an hour where she would go to synagogue because she had rediscovered for herself her Judaism religion and was now coming back to that. She then would come home at 9 and write until 4 p.m. every day, 7 days a week. 5 o'clock dinner. If I was there, fine. If not, it was put in the refrigerator and I would come back and eat. 7 o'clock to bed. This is 7 days a week. It produced 2 plays, 4 novels within 3 years, maybe 2.5 years. And I directed and produced the 2 plays. The novels, the first novel came out. She finally got actually got a publisher after many rejections, but she kept at it and found a publisher that loved her work. Black Opal Books still is her publisher. And the week after she died, her first novel came out. And working with her was reading those novels. Every time she would write a section, she would give them to me and I would go over them. And give her some notes and again, as much encouragement, because that's what you need. You need encouragement to keep going. The second novel came out 2 years later because I waited to bring the second novel out. The second novel is the first of 3 novels. They're all mystery thrillers. The first one is a coming-of-age book about a young girl living in Pittsburgh, and the theme is about bullying young people, how they get bullied, and it's a very beautiful book. But the next novels were a series on mystery thrillers, and they are coming out still. I'm going to have her next book come out this year and follow it with the last book. So even though she has passed away, she's very much alive in me and her art as well. Collaborating with Sarah was always exciting because she was truly a great artist. She explored. She was always interested in exploring everything. And she was very patient with her students because she also taught music students. At Vassar, she was a coach, coaching some of the Vassar students. But we shared the same passion for art and music and literature and drama. So I miss that a great deal. She's been gone 5 years.
What was one of your last conversations with your wife? Did you remember? It was a Sunday morning, breakfast, or a dinner?
I don't remember the last conversation, but I do remember one thing that happened, and that was she said, Roger, we have to have a meeting about promoting the book. It's coming out in a couple of weeks. And that was 1 week before she died, actually right before she died. And I remember thinking, ironically, Sarah, we will talk about that, but that should have been done a year ago. Maybe, you don't talk about promotion 1 week before it's coming out. She was so into the creating of it that the actual business part, we really didn't do anything. She was just very much an artist. And that was my take. I remember thinking, Sarah, we should have had that meeting a year ago. And that was something that and that reminded me how much she was into what she was doing, and really didn't, on one hand she wanted it to sell, on the other hand, it really was about the work.
Sure.
That was her. That was Sarah. Yeah.
Almost the rest of it becomes some sort of irrelevant, right? The priority is to keep creating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah. And I think she was a little bit. She wanted to be considered a successful artist and somebody who had her work sold and people would buy it. To justify in a certain way that she was an important artist, and at the same time she wouldn't really do that. She was more into just doing the work, and it was always a little conflict there with me and her, because I would always say, Sarah, this is a profession, so we have to really this is how we make our living. I know. But it was, it was not the main thing. And I loved her for that. But it also drove me nuts, because we had to balance that. And I had to too. I mean, I love my art, but I had to find a way to also make a living at it. And Sarah would always say, well, and she was right. She said, this house you're living in, where do you think that came from? Because she had been great doing what artists have to do. And that is, if you can't make totally a living doing your art, then you better come up with something to do it. Sarah was a genius at real estate, meaning she knew how to find houses that were on the fringe of great areas and bad areas. And this was during the 80s. And we moved over and over and over again, and we made money doing it, because Sarah would find a house, and we would actually, I had a small inheritance, very small, but we, back in 74, we bought a co-op on Broadway in 94th, and it was Sarah who found it. And we parlayed that. In those days, no one knew the spiraling thing that was happening. And Sarah understood somehow that this would keep us going. So we could live without a mortgage, without rent. So if we had a bad month, or we could have children, we could pay our debts, we could put them in school. And Sarah was a genius at this. She knew how to do it. And she would pack us up every 3 years, and we kept moving. So she'd say to me, Roger, don't tell me I have to make money writing my books. Look what this house, look where we are with this house. Well, to be honest, I'm a guy.
Yeah, so go ahead, shoot.
So all I saw were these beautiful breasts. And a beautiful face.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sorry that I have to say that, but that was it.
That was it.
And she had a very wonderful way of talking. And I knew there was something very special there. and she seemed a little shy. But I just felt something. Did I know what was going to happen?
No.
No. But I knew there was something between us. And then the dinner party invitation came. We took the subway home.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is kind of history. Yeah.
Kind of.
History. I think, sometimes you meet somebody, it's the right time for both, for whatever reasons. I think she was ready, and she saw me, I think, as somebody that she was attracted to, but that somebody, somehow she felt it was right to maybe in the to settle and have children and what have you. I believe she did. And I think somewhere I felt that too, I think. And it's timing. A lot of it's timing. If you meet somebody at the wrong time, it might not have happened. But it was for both of us, I think, a time when we were sort of looking for that. And there was definite chemistry. It was often volatile, though, and it was certainly not always smooth. And that was part of the attraction. I think we were never boring with each other. There was always the element of, but she was very honest, and I liked her piss and vinegar always. There was something very much a spine there.
What do you miss more about her? When you're home, in that space,
yeah,
that you go to the kitchen and you do your dishes, and then you go to the bedroom and you go up and down the stairs in the house and it's without her. What do you miss the most?
The life she created for me. The cooking, the food, the caring, the being there. Sometimes there would be very little talk, but she was there. And she was someone I admired a great deal. I had great admiration for what she did and what she could do. And I think that kind of feeling about somebody you live with, the company, you don't even have to talk. In fact, toward the end, we did very little talking. And it was just hard to explain, but it's a spirit. It was her house. I never felt it was my house. It was our house, but it really was, she created most of this house. And to this day, when I go to a restaurant, sometimes I don't know what to order because I was so used to Sarah saying, okay, we'll have this, we'll have this, we'll have this. And so I'm there at the restaurant, they go, Roger. I'm going, where's Sarah? Where's Sarah? I don't. And it's stupid, but I just feel, I got lazy. She liked, I think she liked to make this life for me, and I got used to accepting it and liking it rather than making more of my own. At the same time, when it came to work, we had our separate lives. We collaborated, but we mostly had our separate lives, so that since she passed away, I think people are maybe surprised and maybe happy that I seem to be doing as well as I'm doing, because in a certain way my life did not change. I'm doing the same exact thing that I did when I was married.
Sure.
Nothing less, nothing more.
Nothing more. I'm so tempted to remove that cushion behind your face, but no, I think it's great. Because you get to play with what you have, and you're comfortable, so that's what matters.
I am. Yeah, she let me do very much my own thing.
Okay.
She kept away from most of my things.
Okay.
Sometimes I wish she could have come more to my stuff. She said, no, can't do that.
Space.
This is
You gave
yours.
each other
This
space.
is yours, and this is yours. But I came to her space, and I loved her music, and I loved her writing. And when it came to my work, I would go into New York because we were living in Poughkeepsie at the end, the last 15 years, and I would go in to do my studio. I would go in for rehearsals. I would go in for performing, and even with her own plays, when we put up The Portrait and we put up Dressmaker's Secret, she came and saw them maybe twice out of the whole run, at the most twice, I think. And I said, Sarah, you want to see the last week? No. I said, but it's your play. I saw it. I said, but Sarah, I'm writing. Oh, okay. Whereas Mihai, the other writer who collaborated with her, was there much more often. He was excited about seeing the whole thing. Sarah was on to the next thing.
Sure. Good for her.
She was an artist. That was
Yes.
good. Now next.
Next.
Right.
Next.
You know,
Let's keep
it's
moving.
yours now. You're the actor, director.
Uh-huh.
I'm on to the next.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we left each other alone about those, you know, and so now it's no different. I'm doing my thing, which I did when I was with Sarah. No different. In fact, right after she died, I got cast in a play, and I did it, and people said, how can you do this? Your wife just died. How can you do a play? And I said, because it's the thing that keeps me
Going.
involved and going. Sarah would say, my God, do it. And I'm better off doing what I love, and rather than sitting around grieving. I'll have time to grieve, but it's you keep going, and so that hasn't changed. And I know Sarah would want that. I know she would. And she'd be the same if I were the one that was going, I'm sure.
Do you feel her we're going to move to the next
Yeah.
subject. I think this is very important for you and for your two sons and your daughter, you know, that we cover all this because it's needed.
Yeah.
Do you feel her presence in the house?
Yes.
You do.
Well,
A very specific time, every specific hour, in any specific room.
no,
You feel her
first of all,
presence.
Sissy, I sold the house.
Oh, I see. I
2
didn't
years
know that.
ago, I sold the house.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
Yes, and
Okay.
I now live on 65th off of First Avenue.
So you don't miss Poughkeepsie?
I don't, because I go up there often.
Okay.
I play ball up there. I play
Uh-huh.
senior softball, and I go up in the spring and summer. I go up on a Sunday, and I play on Monday and Wednesday, and I come back Thursday. So I'm up there all the time.
Uh-huh.
I see people.
Okay.
I go by the house.
Uh-huh.
Do I miss the house? No, I don't miss the house so much as the life
Uh-huh.
with Sarah. That was a great life, and meaning we had musical concerts all the time, parties with food, and Sarah would have all her musical friends come up from New York to try out the concert before it went to Carnegie Hall, and I used to joke that we get them first before New York, and you know, to the artists, I said, you know, the life, the entertaining was all Sarah, the entertaining, the generosity,
A kind and beautiful spirit.
the
giving
spirit, the
a
generosity.
force. She was a force of nature.
She was.
To reckon with.
There's
Right?
there's never going to be a substitute. So that I miss very much. And there I was. All I had to do was be there, because I was never great with my hands in terms of technical things, fixing things. I'm not a cook. She would tell me, "Get out of the kitchen. You're useless." You know, just, yeah. She'd try to teach me, and I mean, get out of here. You know, you're making it worse. But yeah, no, I miss the life, not the house. And in my apartment, though, I feel her. It's not so much the actual space, but I do feel, and I cry. There are moments.
Do you dream about her? Do you dream about her?
Yeah,
You do.
sure. You know, and as my kids also know, because they were also put in the same situation when Sarah started writing. We were removed from her a bit. And so the last part of, I'd say, her life was about Sarah. It's not that she stopped everything, but pretty much we were put in the background, all of us. And she became the writer, and if we fit into the schedule, fine. And if we didn't fit into the schedule, fine. And the same with her close friends. They would call to get together, and Sarah would say, "Can't do it. Sorry." "What do you mean we can't have lunch?" "Nope. I'm writing." And they were put off. So there was part of us, including my kids, that felt,
Left out.
whoa, what's going on? And it was a different Sarah the last 3 years, in a certain way.
What do you mean? Can you be specific about that? What do you mean different?
A bit removed.
Absent?
A bit absent. Even though she was there, the meals were there for us. It wasn't that wasn't, but there was not the same, no, it was about Sarah now. She made it very clear. And
she did what she wanted to do.
She,
with her life, right?
in her mind, this was time that she had to do it because, and she was right. It turned out she was right. She didn't think it would go on longer, and she had this premonition, and she was right. She didn't know after the mastectomy if it would, and I think she knew something or whatever. But this was a time she found something I think she not only loved, but that she could feel accomplishment. With the music, sometimes she didn't feel that accomplishment because she needed to be cast in the there were too many too many people had other controls over it.
But there's a sense of like you are God. You have the timeline. This is the space.
Exactly right.
It's up to you. Whatever comes out of your system, your brain, your guts, your heart, your talent, your experience. You're the one. You're the boss. You're the captain.
Right.
You are driving the car.
That's correct.
You're flying the plane. So it's such a wonderful feeling.
But it does isolate you too, does it not?
Yeah. Sure it does.
And that's what happened. That's what happened. I think with Sarah. And I was very happy for her.
You didn't resent that in any way.
I never saw her happier.
Okay, good.
I never saw her happier.
Good.
In that way. But yes, I felt, I can't say resentment, but I can say, what am I, chopped liver? I mean, what happened?
Whatever happened to us? Where's the fire?
What's going on?
What the hell's going on?
What can I do?
Ooh, tough.
So, and the kids also, you know, they know she wouldn't come into New York.
Right.
They had to come up to her, and
she's the mama. She's the queen of the house.
And they didn't want to. They, so
everybody has a life.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was a little strained.
Sure. But that's life.
That's life, and
that's life, Roger.
And she created all this beautiful stuff and those books. So you give something, you get something, you lose something.
Sure.
And I tried my best to fit in there,
so
but was it successful? And to be honest, was it mezzo? Don't know.
Life is a journey. You discover.
I think there was always love, always love. but it changed.
It changes. Passion fades away to a certain degree, right? Or transforms.
In different
In
forms.
different forms.
Yeah.
Okay, that first chapter of the interview, you see how nice it is to sit down and talk, but I'm out of the camera. So I don't have to be stressed about my hair, my makeup, whatever. I mean,
Well, you just made a description of what you did. That was so beautifully articulate. You should be interviewed on that, because that's the process that is very
it's liberating.
important. Yeah,
It's liberating.
what happens when you get in front of a
When you
canvas,
get into
or when you get in front of it's not the same when you collaborate on a play, because you're depending on those other people. You're not alone there, you know.
Yes, Roger. Now, the first chapter of this interview is going to be called Sarah. I wanted to cover Sarah, your wife, the mother, the artist, the writer, the cook, right? The loving mother that I know that your two sons and your daughter, they miss her very much.
Yes.
I remember to this day when I saw Dan's face when I went to the funeral.
The synagogue, you mean?
Yeah, right, the synagogue. But I was right at the hallway. I was wearing a black shirt. I had my hair very short. And I remember when I saw, if I can picture that for a moment, and I just can close my eyes and try to recreate Dan Simon's face. He was in so much pain that it was like, I felt like the same feeling with my father, you know, that I just wanted to cry and say, I know what it feels like. I know what it does to you. I gave him a hug and I said, your mama, she's an angel in heaven. Please believe it, because she's going to be so close to you, my boy. But I remember the pain, because when my father died, my brother, I wasn't there in the funeral, but I remember my brother, he said, Sissy, we're going to give my dad the best funeral. And there's a picture that my brother sent when he was next to the coffin, and he put his hand right on the coffin. But I remember my brother's face with all that pain. It was just like Dan in that moment. So this is life, and bottom line, we don't know when it's going to be a last beat. People don't get it. People think that they plan ahead. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to fly, No, life is just a moment. Just a brief moment, and you got to live it. Got to try and taste those blueberries and enjoy this conversation.
They are good, too.
And
they are good. No.
Because life is just, Roger, a very, very, very small moment. You know, but I remember in that funeral, if I remember something, to see Noah smoking, you know, he got a lot of character. Different character.
That's pretty much. Oh, yeah.
Very smart guy, okay? A lot of respect for him. I have a lot of respect for all of them. Even though Noah is completely different from Dan and all of them. I know what they mean to you. I know what they mean to your beautiful wife. I know she's listening, because she might be present in the room. But just the fact that the pain, and that I will never forget Dan's face. It struck me to the core. It shook me. Like I hugged him and I said, your mother, she's here. She's going to be with you. And she's going to travel with you no matter where you go, because they travel with you.
And you're so right.
And
you're so right.
And she's right there.
You're so right.
So
you're so right, Sissy.
I needed to say all this because I have the interview. We're gonna do the questions. We're gonna see if we can go.
That's why you're an artist, Sissy, because you do know and you feel these things.
It's just we're living a moment of such a when you face adversity, obstacle, mental problems. My God, my heart goes for all the mental problems, because I'm a big advocate for all kinds of mental problems. I think our society has to be much more receptive and much more compassionate, because people who suffer from mental disabilities are so incredibly smart and brilliant.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to see them differently without any sort of judgment or discrimination.
I had to do that with Noah, but Noah was part of our marriage. In the last few years when he lived with us. And it was a cause of friction, because I was impatient with Noah. I wanted to see him. Come on, what's wrong? Come on, get going. get going. And Sarah was, going where, Roger?
Correct.
Going where?
Correct.
What are we going to do?
Correct.
You have money to send him to $1 million institution? You
No,
don't.
we have to create a supportive system so they can feel not misjudged and not mistreated.
Yeah.
They're a very special breed, and they need attention, they need empathy, they need compassion, and most of it, they need respect.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's something that I try to apply to in my daily life. I know that Noah is different, but I have a lot of respect for him politically. Whatever he says, I don't agree with him, but he's on my Facebook.
Yeah.
And I met him. I saw him when I went to the funeral.
Yeah.
I saw him smoking the cigarette, and I
Yeah.
said to myself, "This is a man of character." I have a lot of respect for Noah, and I just wanted to say that.
Thank
because
you.
he's gonna be.
Thank
he's gonna
you.
listen to
He's
this.
he's made great progress since then.
I think he's brilliant.
He's on his own now.
I think.
Thank you. Thank God.
think-
Because I sold the house, he's on his own.
I think he's brilliant.
Yeah,
and
he
I
is.
think your wife in heaven, she's happy, she's released. Because now she's telling you from the above, Roger, now you're getting it. Now you think you're getting your own son. I don't want to make you sad. I'm sorry that I'm going
No,
so
you're not
deep.
making me sad.
No, it's just
You're
that
making me. It feels good.
it's
Because
such
you're
a-
right. Because you're right, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
He has shown me.
it's the need. And I think this is very important because it's going to be a day
Yeah.
that you're not going to be on earth. And your son, I would love to have this conversation with my father. I would love to just being able to have this with my own dad on camera. They don't have that chance because you're living life, you're paying expenses, you live in New York, and why I didn't have the opportunity to put my own father, like I'm doing with you, to put you on camera so we can talk about the
Yeah.
good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
And I didn't have that chance with my own dad. So I said, you know what? I want to do it with Roger because I know that you love your family. I know that you're a great artist. I know that you dedicated your life with so much commitment, with so much drive to your actors, your Simon studio, and your two sons and your daughter.
I had to go through therapy to come to that. I went
Yeah.
to NAMI. Do you know NAMI?
No, I never heard of it.
It's a wonderful institution
Yeah.
for families of people that are like Noah.
Uh-huh.
Not for Noah.
Sure.
They're for people like me
Right,
to share
right.
their problem
Sure.
of dealing with
Yes.
and how and
it changed.
I went and it helped me.
Yeah, of course.
It really helped
The
me.
biggest. I love it. Now, acting, Yale. Time is running out. We keep going fast. How long we've been taping for? For an hour?
Yeah,
Okay, so we gotta.
Okay.
Yeah, we gotta move on quick. Acting. A little bit about acting. Your studio. I want to talk about the students coming to Simon's studio, making that work.
Okay.
Coaching actors. What's the difference between coaching and teaching acting? There's a difference, right? Or is the same thing? How do you come up with the idea of developing your own Simon studio, right? What you learned. So let's just squeeze all these questions, all these answers in one. Acting, going to Yale University. Let's see if we can summarize, not so
I was
extent.
in the 19th century, Yale. John.
Right, and then the Simon
Whatever.
studio, the
Sure.
idea, working with students, what kind of material, what kind of actors are you interested in, what makes a great actor, what makes a lousy actor, what's a great artist. Let's talk a lot about the craft now, okay?
Please interrupt whenever you want, Sissy. You know?
Yes. The Yale years and your first acting memory, the most relevant teacher. Why he or she was the most relevant teacher. Are the questions pleasing you in any way? This is good stuff?
No, this is good stuff.
Okay,
This is good stuff.
all right.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if I can come up with the
In your
good
teacher
answer.
training, when you were your teacher, do you remember anybody in particular growing up?
Yes.
Teaching you?
I think my high school experience and my first real director, I still think was my best. He set the tone. His name was John Hemmerly, Scarsdale High School, between 1957 in 1960. I was in high school, or somewhere in there. And he was the person who, I think, as a director, he would ask a lot of questions. He didn't dictate to you and didn't give you directions to go here or go there or this and that, which I always had thought, that's what a director does. And it was that kind of exploratory work that I think I carried on through the rest of my life. And I'm sure it was because of him. Mm-hmm. So I always say I go back to him. And I was only 16, 17. I think when you have somebody that young who is any kind of influence on you, it really does affect the rest of your life. And so I would say that would be the one person that sticks out. There have been so many.
Right.
I think one of the things I'm very lucky in this way, Sissy, that I truly was able to have many different techniques given to me.
Mm-hmm. You're so.
I really today I almost fear actors who are in love with this one teacher.
Only.
Or
like me, Elizabeth Kim. I think she was such a great teacher.
No, I understand, and they are.
Uh-huh.
But my feeling is, when I was lucky enough to get into the Yale School of Drama, I came at the right time, because I came at the end of a certain period. Mm-hmm. And that period ended when Bob Brustein came in as the dean, and that was in 1967. And up until then, it was pretty conservative, pretty, kind of one way of working. And it was also a faculty mostly of people who were teaching what they had done years ago. Mm-hmm. What Brustein did was, in 1967, he came in as dean. He was only 38 years old, I think, 37. He'd been he'd won the George Jean Nathan Critics Award for I guess the year before. He had been on the faculty of Columbia. He made the drama school much less academic, mm-hmm. much more of a conservatory, hands-on type of thing. And also the main thing that he did was he brought in so many different disciplines that I got, so many different ways of looking. Everything from the Royal Shakespeare Company, Jonathan Miller, Clifford Williams, uh-huh. from England, Ken Haig, the angry young man from Look Back in Anger from the Royal Court in the 1950s. Right. He brought all that element from England over. Mm-hmm. He brought Carl Weber from the Berliner Ensemble background. I was working with all of these people, mixed with Paul Sills from the Second City. He brought all those actors in from Chicago and the Second City, and Viola Spolin, and the improvisational, nice. Mixed with the living theater and the open theater with... Are
you a big fan of the living theater?
Now...
Back then?
What?
The living theater.
I missed the living theater, because by then I was directing at the Royal Court in London, and I was gone. But
you've been everywhere.
But I did work with the open theater who uh-huh. came. Joe Chaikin uh-huh. brought the open theater there, and they had a residence with us at Yale, and we were able to do the exercises with them and watch them work and rehearse. That mixture that Brustein brought into Yale created turmoil. Mm. It created friction. Mm. It created confusion. Mm. It created a lot of ill will also, because people were threatened from the faculty who had been there for many years, and all of a sudden what's happening? Students didn't know who to follow. And I remember, instead of feeling lost, I felt liberated. I said, wow, I can do all of this.
Sure. It
And
doesn't have to be one way or the other.
why
right?
do I have to be one way or the other?
Right.
I'm going to take a little of this.
A little bit of that.
I take a little of that.
And make it work for
Whereas
you.
I remember some of my colleague students said, no, I hate this. And I love her, and I'm sticking with it. I said, but why don't you try? And you don't have to take everything, but try it, do it, because later you're going to be working with people who come from all over the
Different,
world,
sure.
and you can't just say, I don't work that way.
Right.
You're going to have to work so many different ways. So for me, I was so lucky to have that background. Was it, as I say, it was not totally, it was anything but peaceful, and it was not always, it wasn't nice. A lot of things were done that were, not polite. Brustein was a bit brutal with the way he treated certain older people and who had been there many years, but I celebrated it and I embraced it. And so I prospered by it. And so he invited me to come into the Yale Rep as the first student to be in that Yale Rep. That was in 1967, 1968. And as I say, it was a very lucky thing to be there at that time, because that kind of background took me into the future, I think. And I then went to Europe after the year at the Yale Rep, because after the year at the Yale Rep, he said, okay, you're off now. That's it. You had your year. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, that's it. He said, we're bringing next one in, good luck. He said, but by the way, he said, you're going to be fine, because I just was out in Wisconsin. And I had I just got an honorary degree at Lawrence University. Do you know where that is? I said, no, I never heard of it. Well, guess what? Guess who's going to be the next director of theater at Lawrence University? You, Roger. I said, what? He said, yes, I nominated you, and they're going to be calling you. You're going to probably get the job. I said, well, what am I going to do there? He said, what you're going to do there, Roger? Are you kidding? This is a great job. This is a wonderful job. You got a tenured position here. You're going to be teaching out there in Appleton, Wisconsin. I said, Appleton, Wisconsin? He said, yes, this is going to be great. I said, Bob, what am I going to teach them? He said, what do you mean? You've just been at Yale. I said, yeah, I know. And before that, I was at Middlebury. And before that, I was at Scarsdale High School. I haven't been out in the world at all, Bob. I've been in schools every year. What am I going to teach them? Schools? Well, yeah, but Yale. I said, yes, Yale's been great. But Bob, I need to get out in the world, I think. He said, really? Okay, good luck, kid. And that's when I took off and decided to go on my own, and I went to London to do a summer job there with a group that was just going to do a summer workshop with college kids from America, and then while I was there, I did Megan Terry's Keep Tightly Closed in a Cool Dry Place, which is a play that came out of the Open Theater that I brought over, that I had done at Yale, and it took to New York and got arrested for flag desecration, which was a big deal in 1967.
Wow, you've been around, and you're not.
Well, that way, I went and took and did it. I did it in London without the flags, and producers saw that. This was at the Open Space Theater. Charles Marowitz was the director there, who had been working with Peter Brook. And I was all of 23, 24, long hair down to here.
I can't picture you with long hair. Are you kidding?
Oh man,
You had long hair? Do you keep a picture of long hair?
Sure.
Oh, so when I'm gonna be editing the interview, I'm gonna put an insert. Is Joey listening?
I think I got some long hair stuff.
No,
But
I'm gonna hold on. Don't worry. I'm just gonna put more chips. Do you want more chips on your plate? Something that
I'm
you
fine,
need?
babe. I'm fine.
Are you
Thank
sure?
you. I'm fine.
Roger, this is good stuff. What's going on here?
I hope so.
What do you think? I think it's good stuff.
I think you're asking some good stuff.
I think we're going
Thank you.
private. calling the deep, but you know what? This is life.
I found it hard to be articulate about the Sarah stuff. It's hard to be articulate.
Yeah, no, but you did a great job.
I thought it's hard.
This is a man, this is a legend.
Legend.
Oh, Roger,
Legend.
yes you are.
Yeah.
Come on, please.
If you live long enough, everybody's a legend, Sissy.
No.
You know, we are all you live long enough.
No, not everybody, but you are.
Anyway.
So, wow, you got a long hair. You got to send me that picture.
I mean, it wasn't that. I mean, it was. Yeah, it was long. It was. Yeah, I mean.
You were interested, so.
I think you have to have. It's very hard because people want to have the answer, and young people particularly, and they want to know what's the best technique, what's going to get me the farthest. And I think, unfortunately, today, the answer is often taking training that emphasizes mostly film and television.
But everybody wants now, I'm sorry for interrupting, I'm trying to be a better listener, okay? Everybody wants to be famous, Roger.
Correct.
No, everybody wants to skip the training.
That's correct.
Skip the work.
That's correct.
Everybody wants to be, listen, I think social media is great, but nobody wants to pay the dues. Nobody wants to go through the process of learning, studying the craft, and doing the things the hard way. Everybody wants the easiest way.
And I sympathize with people who are like that in this way, Sissy, because I'm faced with that all the time with people, and so are most of my
colleagues. Do you see that right away in the student?
Yes, and most of my colleagues have left teaching who are my age because they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Really? Oh, wow.
They just don't want to deal with that mentality, and I still have a difficult time with it, and sometimes it gets in my way because I get upset and get angry sometimes. But it.
This is can we say, Roger, that this is thinking out loud? This is an impossible business to ride with. I mean, living as an actor, as an artist, as a creator, everybody's different, but acting, should we call it the impossible profession?
Yes, it always was.
And it always will be.
But the difference, and here's where I sympathize with people who are like, when's the agent coming? Let's get going. Let's get the, you know, I sympathize with it in this way. When I got out of Yale in 1967, 68, people could afford an apartment in Manhattan. I don't have anybody in my classes now who can live in Manhattan.
This is insane.
So, you know what I mean? They can't pay, a lot of them, for any training that doesn't include when do I get the showcase? When do I get and so the whole emphasis now is fast. Let's get something going. Only 4 weeks. Let's do it. And
Correct.
there's no sense of taking more time because there's not enough money. The pressure seems to be so much more than when I started. And you know, it's a whole different way of thinking in terms, I think a lot of it is because how expensive it is to live in this city.
Do you think it's going to get any worse?
It's not going to get better. And I don't think it's going to get better, although when it does, it'll be marginally. Prices aren't going to go down. And you can't raise your prices because your actors that you want to work with can't afford to do, you know.
Right.
Rents are astronomical for acting coaches, teachers. So I do empathize with people that, let's go, come on, you know. But you can't get there that way.
No.
It's just not, it doesn't work.
Going back.
20 years ago even,
Uh-huh.
20 years ago, maybe 25, casting directors didn't teach.
Right. Really. I
You
agree
you
with
you 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 sent a resume and a picture to an office,
Uh-huh.
and you could actually go to the office and hand them to the secretary or whatever, and you would get called in for some, an interview. The only way you can get an interview now is if you pay to be in front of a casting director.
It's insane.
Answer is
No.
no, but some of them do. The problem is, it doesn't matter. The actors have to gravitate to them because they're told even by the agents, take those classes. Take those classes because that's how you're going to make the connection. And when you,
There's so much crap.
and even, well, I have to tell you this, Sissy,
Tell me.
it may not be crap. The real issue is, I have a manager and an agent. They submit me, but if they don't know me, because I'm not, a household name, it gets into the pile. But if I have any connection with them, it goes to the top.
Correct.
So how do you get that connection with these young casting directors?
That's the question.
And that's why the answer is, the managers even say, Roger, take those classes. Take those classes. And I say, I hate that. I've been at this 45 years. Why should I do that? And yet underneath, I know, Sissy, that
They work. I mean,
it probably works. If they see somebody who has talent, and I come in there and I'm at a certain age, and then they look at my resume and they see everything that I've done, I'll probably be put at the, I'm not going to be just submitted by, submissions mean, you're submitted with thousands of people,
of course,
if you have an agent,
if you have one.
or whatever. So that's just the reality. Whether we like it or not is irrelevant. I mean, I can talk about it and say it's robbery, it's awful, these people have nothing to teach, don't waste your money. But the reality is, if you want to get auditioned, there is truth in it. There is truth in it. I can't argue with that. At the same time, I can say, yes, you will get the auditions, but when you get those auditions, what are you going to do? And what's the quality of the work going to be? And you've got to keep both going. You can't just do those casting director seminars. You've got to really do the work. And the work takes time and money.
To develop and money.
And if you don't have the time and the money, the odds are not terrific. They're just not terrific.
Why, as is it any way that, because there's so many groups. Classes, ways for actors to explore
Yeah.
and exercise their craft.
Yeah.
But why not, and I'm just thinking out loud, create a sort of, I'm not talking about unions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not talking about any of that. Create a support group that helps actors to find work. I see all kinds of people teaching. I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. Everybody's teaching acting. I see people in Costa Rica. They make 3 films. They do seminars, acting seminars. Here, I see it, and it's a little scary because I addressed this to Kemp. They said to teach acting, that's a very special gift, and it doesn't go so. I mean, everybody's doing it. A lot of people are training, are teaching acting.
That's right.
Okay, so number one,
More than ever.
more than ever. So I have a problem with that. Okay. Number two, why not creating some sort of a system, a supportive system for actors? How do we get work? Listen, it's nice to go to the actor studio, which we'll talk about that, doing the work, right? They develop for years. Whether it's John Strasberg, whether it's you, Roger Simon, Elizabeth Kemp, rest in heaven, Karen Giordano teaching. There's so many wonderful people doing work, developing plays, creating working opportunities. But the bottom line is there's no support system for actors. We're basically alone in the storm. There's no any supportive mechanism that helps the actors not only to get trained, there's plenty of ways that you can train. And if you don't have the money, God help you, God help us all. You understand? But how do we get the opportunities to be seen, to be connected, to get a way that, okay, you get the ball rolling, okay, networking. It's about networking, about, they see you here, they see you there. How do we create that system? Because everybody's working alone.
What I've tried to do with my studio is to create my own community so I can do some of that.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do I have students in my classes, but I invite colleagues and colleagues of mine.
To see the work.
And I invite them not just to see the work, but to actually participate and to share their talent and to either bring something in that they've written or perform or present something with them rather than just come and watch as so that I try to integrate, and that came from perhaps what Brustein did at Yale when he mixed, for the first time, he brought in professionals to be in the productions with us. And I learned more that way by working with them. It was almost like the apprentice system. And so I've tried to make the class not just students, quote, young people that have very little experience, but I have people who I consider my associates who are on scholarship or just have something. I say, would you like to work on that? Come in. Come in. Can you use our people? This would be great. The connections are made. People got work from that outside. So if you can create a community, not just an acting class. So that's why I have directors, playwrights and screenwriters
Working
in there
together,
all the time.
That's the way to do it.
I don't have acting class. Most of the people are actors, but many of them are screenwriters, playwrights, developing, and many of those projects have been produced that with those people, both in my studio when we have the money, like Sarah's play, or at another theater that we know, we just bring it out and move it over there. So the answer, I think, Sissy, is to create a community yourself, and that's always been what I like to do anyway.
Because
I at one time wanted to perhaps, and was considered as a regional theater director, artistic director, but it never really would work out. I always wanted New York. And so therefore I treat my studio like it would be my rep company, which means it's really not just actors.
Because actors,
That's right.
Bottom line here
They need
to work. Actors, we need to be seen.
Right.
Opportunities. How do you get these opportunities? Just to give you an example, when I do my show, when I do my interviews, I have film directors, independent film directors, reaching me out. Sissy, what do you think of this actor for this and such and such? They like, I act like some sort of casting, because it happened to me that a few projects, they asking me, Sissy, what do you think about this actor, for that actor? I always, yeah, sure. A director got in touch with me. to say, Sissy, I like your friend Scott McCord. He's an actor studio member. Do you know his work? Yeah, Scott is a very good actor. He's doing a show in From at Epics. He's an actor studio member. He's Canadian, but he's a great guy. No ego, no bullshit. I think it will be a great choice. And apparently Scott is going to be doing this film with this guy. But it's like I'm always trying to network and to connect people together. But bottom line, we have to be able to create a community where we can. You understand? It's not infuriating that you go for an audition that somebody's casting you and the kids, because a lot of these people, they're 20s, they're in the 20s, 25, 26 years old. That's what Lincoln was telling me, that she would go for auditions and all the people in casting, they were young people.
Of course.
Who didn't have a fucking idea who Vanessa Redgrave or
They don't know.
or Glenda Jackson. They don't know shit about
No,
acting.
they have no history of it.
So it is in a world that basically you're putting your life and your opportunities and your talent and your craft in a stranger's hands. A stranger who, by the way, has no fucking training, has zero knowledge about the theater, zero knowledge about any substance,
Yeah.
acting substance. So you go for auditions, and a lot of the times you're auditioning for younger people who don't know much about acting. So it's a circle that you go in a circle and say, okay, what does it take to be seen, to have opportunities? Do you make your independent films like your son? Do you do my own show? Do my own stuff? I'm creating consistently. What do we do?
Yeah.
And bottom line, that you turn the TV, is all that kind of crap on TV.
Well,
Why is it so hard to get in the first place when there's so much crap out there,
Yeah.
Roger? Why is it so hard to get in? Explain that to me, because I have all these boiling questions that actors need to work. Not only work about the craft and the monologue and the diction and project and be in the moment and be present. We can talk and go over.
Yeah.
It's a no-ending road for us, okay? We're always learning, but
They have
actors
to-
need to work.
but they have to find. I think Marcia did this and does this too. Marcia.
Marcia.
When,
Humphreys,
you don't
yes.
just teach acting; you create a community.
She does. She does, like you.
That's, and if you create a community, you're going to have actors working. They're going to make the connections through your community.
Right.
You're going to not just be working in class. It's going to work outside as well. They're going to make those connections. Every time I do a film, Sissy, I have that film director and producer in my studio. I have them come in
Good.
to talk, to watch, and I invite them also to bring their latest project to do a reading of and use our best people rather than just watch the work, so that they're actually participating.
Of course.
And I mean, there's no substitute. So if you create that atmosphere, things will happen. That's number one. Number two, I sympathize with actors who feel like you do. How do I find work? I just have no place to go. But I only sympathize with them up to a point. I always say to all the young actors that come in, and some of them are not just young, oh, you poor little things. We should all make work for you.
No way.
What
You
do
have to find a way.
I said, here's the way you do it. And some of them just can't, so I understand that. You create your own work.
Correct. You create your
You
own
learn,
opportunities.
you get your people together, you raise, $400 to whatever you have to do, and you go out and you start doing something on your own, and you stop waiting for that damn phone.
Nobody's
or
gonna
the-
call.
No,
Nobody's gonna come and
I
knocking
say-
on your door. You
I
gotta
say,
make it.
stop thinking like you're an actor. Think
Sure.
like you're a producer. Think like you're a director. Look at the people in this room right now. Look, what are they, chopped liver? Are none of them good enough to work with? Are you waiting for Steven Spielberg to call you? Forget
It
it.
doesn't work that
But
way.
a couple of these directors are going to be doing some really good work. Guess who they're going to remember from today? You.
I agree.
Get to know them. Don't tell me you can't find a monologue. Ask that writer to write you one.
Correct. I agree with you.
Now, if you can't do that, either find something else to do other than acting, because you're not going to, you've got to be an entrepreneur. You've got to produce. And if you're going to, actors do not sit and wait for the big moment. The big moment happens when you ask him to write you something that somebody saw. Correct.
I agree.
But that's the answer to your question. Yeah. So when you say there's no support, there is. But each.
No, but Roger, listen. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. The whole idea of creating my show. Because I have somebody at the Actors Studio many years ago said, Sissy, you got to do your own show. I go, I can't do this. It's a lot of work. Are you kidding me? Like, are you really? Like, go and to take the classes and go through the whole selection and then have the slot time, Friday 7:30, making all that work and then learning the editing and getting guests. You know how much work I've been through with my show? You have no idea.
Yes, Roger. I do.
I mean, well, you do, but...
I do. It's endless. It's endless. And you would love somebody to take it from you and do that and produce it.
I don't mind. I don't mind. Listen, if I have to work this one, there, drop that, so bit, Roger. I'm okay with it. But what I'm saying is that the opportunities are not only within the community, like what you're saying. Actors have to learn to work together. There's a lot of... the me thing. You know, I see that on Facebook, I see that on Instagram. It's all about themselves.
So
it's all about themselves.
So you have to create an atmosphere and try to not make that happen in that atmosphere. Because you can't take care of everything.
No, you can't.
But you can make it a small nuclear, whatever you call it, little community where there is that kind of atmosphere and where people are not. The other night in class I felt that. And I lost it. I really got angry.
You got upset. Why?
Well, my leg was. I had pain. I had nerve pain, and I let it get the best of me. And one a very talented actress. Danny and I were shooting 4 Mondays of television and film stuff for reels. And part of the session was you have your shots, and then you read the other scene with somebody else. And this one woman said, I'm not getting enough. I said, really? You're not getting enough? What do you mean? You just shot your scene and now you're reading this. I'm just reading the scene. I said, you're just reading the scene? This is a wonderful actor. You have an opportunity to work on a character with this. That's work. What do you mean you're not getting enough? Well, you know what I mean. I said, I think that sucks. That is a terrible attitude.
Sure.
And I really lost it.
Sure.
Because I said, you're developing. It's not going to always be about you on camera.
No. That's
I said Tom Hanks in The Green, that movie.
The Green Mile?
Huh?
What movie is that? The Green Mile?
Yeah. He insisted that he be off camera with the African American actor.
Yes, who died, by the way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Doing those scenes where he was opposite him. He could have had a stand-in do it. He said no. I want to be there and be there and work.
And be there for him.
Because I know it'll make him really good.
Sure.
Because we're working together.
Of course.
I mean, yes, you have to instill that in them when you teach. You have to instill that.
Any Simon method
Yes.
in your work? What would be your method, Roger? I don't know if this is a very tricky question, but I'm asking.
No, it's a wonderful question, Sissy. Method in my madness.
Method, yeah. Is there any specific? I mean, do you call your way of teaching, the way of approaching actors, your method? Have you come up with that, or you don't know yet?
I would start by telling you that when people connect with me and say, that's the first thing they ask. The first thing many of them ask is, do you teach Meisner?
Oh, Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I go, no. Do you teach Strasberg? I go, no. Do you teach Stella?
Mm-hmm.
I go, no. Well, what do you teach? I go, Simon.
Sure.
Oh, yes, we know that, but what do you teach? I said, Simon. Well, what is Simon? I said, well, on the phone, it's hard to give you in the nuts and bolts here. That's why I would like you to audit, and you will see what Simon really is. I can tell you a little bit, but it won't be a total picture for you. But I can tell you this. Meisner was a great teacher, but he's dead. Nobody teaches Meisner. Meisner taught Meisner. People who say they teach Meisner are kind of lying. Because, and they know this, because what you're really getting from Joe when he teaches you Meisner, if he's really good, and I'm sure he is, if you studied with, he's hopefully teaching Joe.
Right.
He's using Meisner,
Sure.
but if Meisner were in the back of the room watching Joe, he might very well say, God, no, don't say it's me. I never, that would be not what I would do. That's you, and that works for you, and that's great. You're using me to take off from. But even if you translate Meisner's exercises from the book, and you give them verbatim, it's not really Meisner, because for me, when you study with Roger Simon, you're getting the person, the actual personality, and the way that person approaches and talks, the tone of how he teaches. It's not just the ideas or the exercise, it's how he gives it to you. And that can be done many different ways depending on the individual.
Sure.
And that is a very, I think, important thing that people don't realize. They think they're getting a technique. They're only getting the written down stuff, but it's being interpreted by somebody who, if they're really good, they're filtering it through themselves, which means it's theirs. They've made it theirs.
Right.
The reality is many of them say it's Meisner because, frankly, it's good business.
Sure.
Because that's what people want. They want Meisner.
They want Meisner.
And they'll make money. And if you say Simon, it's a hard sell.
Yeah.
And that and they all look shocked. What? I said, yes, it's a business teaching.
Sure, it is.
It is.
And by the way, everybody's teaching it.
And they know that, but they don't want to hear it. They want to hear it's an art. They want to hear maybe it's a craft.
It's a craft.
They don't want to hear it's a business.
So acting is short livor, cutting to the chase, craft, business, art. Acting comes down to one single word right now. What is it?
Well, it's not necessarily business at all for some people, and that's okay. Okay? Most of it isn't art, because only this percentage becomes art. It's really, if anything, probably teaching craft. And then from some of that work, you get this much art, maybe, if you're lucky. So one word, very hard, Sissy.
Oh no, you can do it. Come on, let's think. I don't care. Take a couple minutes.
There are a lot of words that come to mind. I mean, for me, passion, but
That's the
but
first
that's
one.
not but that's not.
That's not it. There's a sense of like,
I think everybody feels like an outsider when you're an actor, though.
oh, that's a good feeling then. So we're all misfits and outsiders.
I think so. If you're an
Brilliant,
artist,
man.
if you're an artist, you're basically a bit of a revolutionary.
Sure.
If you're really
It's a
good,
lonely
you're going to be
existence.
outside a little bit. You know, can't be.
yeah.
You, if you're really good, you're going to be you're going to be unique in being.
In your
yeah.
own way.
Yeah.
Is it?
You have to. What makes it not tough?
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It's
I do
not-
know what you mean, but it will not do that for you
Correct.
because there's not enough,
No.
and it won't do it for most people.
No.
So, to begin with, the balance has to be. It has to be your passion, but you also have to have a life.
Yes, of course.
I do not believe in it can't be everything. It just
No,
can't, because
it's just not everything.
it'll kill you.
Because
You have to have grandchildren. You have to have.
Well, I have my figures in bed. You've seen him. I have
You have
a
your
legacy.
children. You have to, and that's not bad. That's good.
Oh, you don't know how much I love those
There's a
babies.
balance. There's a
Listen.
balance, but that's easy said than done.
Of course.
That's
But
easier said than
I'm a happy girl.
done.
I'm a happy kind
And-
of girl. I don't regret. I don't go.
And all that stuff, having the babies and this and that, helps your acting.
Sure.
Because you're bringing that world of living into your characters.
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise, what are you're just bringing acting class to, you go to
We're feeding
you
ourselves.
want to go to the museums, you want to go to concerts. This all relates. Every time I go to a concert and I hear the symphony, it's helping my.
It's feeding you.
It's feeding me in terms of the play I'm working on.
Sure.
And you have to think that way. You have to enjoy your life. You cannot get absorbed and sucked into this. This is it. Nothing else.
I will tell you this: the best
That's-
piece of advice that I can give to anybody is stop thinking. You know what I'm saying? Just do.
You asked about what is the Simon technique.
What's the Simon technique? Break it down in simple terms. Simon, Roger Simon. This is good stuff.
I've
What's
been
going
talking-
on here? I hate to brag, but it's good stuff.
Thank you. I've been talking to myself about. People say, "Why don't you write a book about
Yeah,
your
I was gonna
technique
ask
and all
about
this?
that.
Why don't you do that?"
Uh-huh.
I said, "Another book about acting technique? What? We really need that?" "Yes, well, your technique." I said, "Yeah." So I'd be more interested about writing about my life and how my life has created the way I work. That I would be interested in. So I'm trying to do that. But if there's anything, Sissy, that I try to emphasize, I think, and it's because of the training I've had, and this gets into what I feel is mostly missing in terms of what I see with young actors today, and
That's good. What's missing?
what they're not able to do and what they're not interested in. Because it's the least sexy.
Right.
What is sexy to them about training
Yeah.
is emotional work, psychological work, sensual work. Frankly, all the stuff you get at the Actors Studio. Very important work, by the way, not saying it isn't. But it is, I think, totally, it has left behind, I feel, the work on voice, the work on articulation,
pronunciation.
the work on emphasis, on key words in a phrase. I'm talking film also.
Sure.
So-
Everybody's mumbling like Brando.
Well, if they're not mumbling, they're kind of talking like this, which means that everything is equal. That
Yeah.
one, two,
Everybody's so natural. Like I said to Peter Green.
the whole thing now,
Everybody's so natural that it's boring.
to me, that's the way it is, Sissy, a lot
Yeah.
of it. Now, there is a balance, I understand that, and you can't go too far. But I find that I have to, if there's one thing I do, it's emphasize language. And I don't, I've asked actors, do you take voice? Oh yeah, I took it years ago.
Oh yeah,
Or next year I'll take it. What? There's no feeling of talking from here. It's not, oh yeah, well, that's the,
Yeah.
and I was brought up and trained that was the basic stuff, and how to move on a stage. And that's considered old-fashioned, Sissy. Even how to move on camera, the choreography of when you're even in a close-up, there's choreography. What? Choreography? What are you talking about? You have to know when those eyes go down and when they come up, on a close-up. That doesn't happen just by mistake. Brando was brilliant at it, and it's craft. You have to know, if you watch Joey's, if you watch football, and they announce the opening lineup on the camera, do you notice how they show each player and they name, and Joe Unskunce, and his head comes up on the first the name and then the head comes up. Is that by chance? No, they were directed to do that to get focus, and for the interest. That's technique. That's craft. You don't. So when you have a close up, and I'm not even talking stage, you don't just sit there and you're thinking, for this, do I want to come in like this, or do I want to come in?
So we're talking here about form.
We're talking about we're
This
talking.
is form.
You call it form. You call it form. I call it
style. Huh?
I call it
That's
craft.
right.
I call
It's
it craft.
very
I call it. I call it. Being aware of pictures that you're making.
Sure.
Don't tell me I can't be in the moment if I'm thinking about where the light is and where my head's going to go.
That's
No,
your
you're
craft.
being paid to know
Sure.
what
You
to
have to know
do,
your game.
and the director isn't going to necessarily have time to direct you that way. You come up with a choice on what to do with the close-up. They edit that, but usually, or they'll say, try it this way. But you are
Take it down a notch.
you're the you're the creator, and when do you in that speech? When do you move back into the pillow in that speech? And when do you come forward in that speech? Does that?
But if you go and you speak to somebody at the actor studio, which I love, I have a lot of friends.
I know.
Like you.
Yeah.
Actor studio members, they will say, well, that's against to some degree to if you're in the moment, 100%. And if you live in the experience, like Elizabeth Kemp used to say, I'd rather you have in the experience instead of showing me. Don't show me. I'd rather you have the experience.
I say you have to do both.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's a balance.
Especially in film.
Now, sometimes you're showing it, and that's bad. But you have to be in the moment and still have enough craft to know that on that moment, come forward, and it makes the whole moment come to.
So you have to be, so you're in and out?
Yes, absolutely. You can't be totally in.
You can.
Because if you're totally in, you go to
done?
you're going to go to Bellevue. There are people at Bellevue that are totally
So
in.
that explains why I'm a little too in, because I'm all the way in, all the way out.
So am I. But the point is,
Did I look crazy to you?
look, actors.
Oh wow, you didn't say no.
No, I'm sure I'm a little out there.
A little. We all are a little out there. Normality. Roger Simon. Like
There's
my
no
father
normality.
used to say, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You see how interesting? Look at the evolution of this interview. Roger was all sitting nice on the couch, very proper, very
proper.
very nice. Next thing I know, woo, mwah, sending my love to the fans. The pillows are messed
totally
up.
a mess.
Look at the process.
Totally a mess.
This is a moment that I'm having here.
Different sides of that
No.
person.
The interview was very much, but now we're exploring, we're talking, we're getting into it, we're getting a little wild. So we're just letting the thoughts coming along.
Everything is
And
scary.
the pillow, I don't care about this pillow.
Who
It's
gives a shit about
who
the
gives
pillow?
A shit about the pillow? Well, hold on, let me fix that because that's distracting to me.
But it is. You can call it form. I don't call it form. I call it just
But-
awareness.
No, listen to me.
Yeah. I want to hear
If
the.
I have a moment that's okay, Roger, we're doing a fucking scene for a fucking whatever, for a film, whatever.
Yeah.
You just gotta eat your wrench. Just lick it with your finger. That's all you need to do.
All right. Delicious. Yeah.
But it will come out in many different ways. It will be whatever goals, whatever obstacles, whatever inner life you have inside of you, that will be your choice. As an actor, you're highly trained. You know what to do. Correct? But I'm not finished. I can see your thinking process kicking in, but you gotta let that
I'm letting
thinking
you go.
process,
Yeah.
You let me fly.
Go.
You're gonna let me fly.
I'm letting you fly.
And then I crash and then you rescue me.
I won't do that.
Begin. So,
Yeah.
if, to some degree, if you are in the moment,
Which is
in the moment, just listen. If
Right.
you're in the moment, just
right.
in the moment, exploring whatever reality you have on this table, the chips,
Okay.
your phone,
Right. Very important to be in that moment.
to be in that moment, your carrots, your napkin,
Right,
your
right.
everything, right?
Right.
If you're in this little world that you're
Right.
creating, you're the master creator of this little world,
Right.
you gotta get so sucked in it without any concern about how it's gonna come out, because the result to a certain degree could be a trap for actors. I'm not talking about a film. I mean, honestly, there's a magic word, I think, in terms of acting. You're the master, I'm the student here, but it's like you open the door and you just go in. You open the door and you just go in. If we are thinking too much, which I believe the thinking process could be a bitch,
Right.
you are interfering with whatever energetic, creative fire flow is going on
Totally
in the
agree.
situation.
Totally agree.
So when I'm painting,
Yeah.
okay, I don't think. It's funny, people ask me what you were thinking. I said, I don't think.
That's yeah.
I don't allow the thinking process to take place.
Right.
Because it slows me down, it drags me down.
Right.
In fact, one of my paintings, I did with my eyes closed. I'm not bragging, I'm just letting you know. So it's when you are in the moment
Yeah.
and you dare yourself to just explore this very specific moment,
Yeah.
it's going to get to the point that you're going to be so wrapped up in it, Roger, that everything else becomes absolutely irrelevant.
And that's what I see at the Actors Studio.
Correct.
And that's where I have a problem.
Correct.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but I'll tell
No,
you.
no, no, I hear
I'll
you.
tell you why I have the problem.
I know, but
No,
it's,
I don't think you do.
no, I know, I do. I understand what you're coming from.
Because they're into the moment,
Sure, but
and
then
whatever happens, they're going to let happen,
Sure,
and they forget the play.
sure,
And I want to see the play.
sure.
And
You
they
wanna
say,
see
and they say, fuck the play.
Yeah,
It's about
no,
me.
No, it's about
It's
the
about
play.
my moment.
It's
No,
not-
they
no,
say.
it's-
No, they say.
It's,
In the
this
acting.
is, we love the Actors Studio, by the way. We love it. We love it. I love it. I love it. But I understand what you're saying.
Well, I don't love that part of it.
No, I mean, it's a conflict because
They are more interested in me
in you than the play.
than the play. I'm
Yeah.
interested in the play.
Sure, but how do you create that balance? Now,
That's
if you're a good-
that's right. You got to
but
get the,
if you are a good director, if you're a good acting teacher,
right
you allow your actors
to
to dive into the work,
and then remind them.
explore them, and then listen. There's a play that you're doing. There's a scene from a very specific play or from a very specific film.
And you hope that
going on.
you hope they'll get to the play eventually.
In terms of exploration, there's no need
to
allow
get
me
to the
say-
play. To get
right,
to the play.
because it's an exploration.
You're right.
Roger.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. Now, in terms of doing the play, putting the work specifically, then you can say, okay, guys, we have a play going on.
Right. So when do you get to that?
When you get to you get to that during the process, but in the process of searching and creating love, you are communicating to the Lord above, to the universe, to all the muses. You're just a vessel.
Yeah, but
So
here's the
you just
problem.
gotta let that energy
okay.
go through.
Yeah.
Because if you cut it
Right.
with your thinking process,
Right.
you're fucking it up. Now,
So-
when you get to the point that you're doing the play, and then okay, and then you go and you create that balance. But in terms of exploration, you need to get lost in the work.
Absolutely. Now let me ask you this:
Okay.
how much time do you need before you get to that doing the play?
It
if you work
depends
that
how
way.
much time. If you give me a scene, Sissy, can we do a scene from Some Like It Hot? Or can we do a scene
Yeah.
from
No, I know.
The Red Hot, the Lovers? I mean, whatever it takes. I said, listen, I'm hot. I'm coming to the
Yeah.
room because there's no AC and I'm sweating my ass off and I got to put my bottom
Right.
right at the AC.
Right. Right.
Okay, let me explore that feeling for a bit and then I go to the next move.
Yeah.
I mean, exploration is needed.
Of course.
The problem is
Yeah.
that films and stage work, they're very much into, once again, the result. That's why the film Blonde has so been controversial with Ana de Armas, because it was sexual, but it was, that's a different subject. But it's is the exploration of the moment
Yeah.
to the full capacity.
Yeah.
Like when the astronauts, they get ready.
Yeah.
They train for years to get into that spacecraft, whatever you call it, to go shoot up to the heavens
Yeah.
and go for a day or two to the moon. How long did it take them for them to get ready to that moment?
Yeah.
A whole lifetime, Roger. So, like I said, it's not one or the other. The actor studio, I think, what is so valid and so wonderful
Yes, it is.
is the fact that they emphasize in the process.
Yes.
And
I agree.
The result doesn't matter at this point. Now,
That's
when you
correct.
get to the truth, when you get to the fucking core of the work,
Yeah.
when you get to the essence of what's going on, then Joe, you can open the door.
Yeah.
Then you go in with a very specific
Right.
direction.
So-
Roger, you would say, Sissy, now
So,
you
right.
go that direction.
So-
but it takes a gift.
So here's my question.
Yes.
I agree with everything you say. So there are people in the actors studio who I have seen
Hi, Andrew.
who are absolutely incredible
You're right.
doing what you're talking about. You know? But they also want to work professionally,
Sure. Of course.
and they get cast.
Of course.
They cannot often exist in that outside world.
Right. I get you. It's a balance.
That's not good.
No, it is not good. It has to work.
And
you have to
a lot of people cannot.
Yeah.
And they prefer being in the actor's studio where they
Isolated
can.
from reality. And,
And-
they can explore themselves to death.
And they-
Andrew, this
and-
is my home. Roger Simon, Andrew, sending a lot to you. Welcome home. We're about to finish, okay? Oh, no, you're not interrupting. You're a guest. You're a special guest.
Hi, Andrew.
What about Coco? Is she coming anytime soon? Okay, good. Let my husband take care of you. And I take care of my guest because we're in the middle of an interview. We just interrupted it again. But hey, it doesn't matter. This is life. Life is messy. No, I know what you're saying, Roger, but...
And I remember sitting there with Arthur Penn,
Rest in peace, Arthur Penn.
and Arthur Penn saying, after he had done some exercise of an improv on something, I can't remember, and somebody said something. He said, "People, you know the watchword of our studio. The words come last." And I went, "Oh no!" It hit because my training came in the other way.
Sure. But listen...
So I just went.
Of course. I know what you're saying.
They're never going to get to the words.
No, I know.
Some
know
of
what
them,
you're
some of
saying.
them can't.
Right.
They
get
want to,
stuck.
and
They
then
have-
when you finally say to them, "Now it's time to do the words," they go, "What do you mean? This is great what we're doing."
No. I know what you're saying. But
And so it's a balance.
It's a balance, but the process itself
Is
in
very
search of
important.
The exploration,
Absolutely.
You got to go through all that. And what I applaud about the studio is the fact that it's not about
Yeah.
in the beginning of the process. It's not about the result. We're not concerned about the result yet, not yet. But when you're ready and when you find the substance and the truth of it, then you go to the words. But they cannot come at last
And
Right?
I'm trying to train people
to do both.
who will be
Give me
able
that
to make a
adjustment.
living at it.
Sure. And not only that, you have to be able to make that adjustment.
And
Right?
and
You said to me, Sissy, you gotta you gotta eat the ranch. You said,
Right.
wow, delicious.
yeah.
That was a nice word, nice speech, or whatever you want to say.
They can make the adjustment if they've had the training.
Sure.
They haven't had voice.
And they have to have the
They haven't had
willingness to
enough
do it.
voice.
Right.
But they're working on the moment. And I
Sure.
say, enough of the moment.
Now,
I want to
next.
hear the words.
Sure, I hear
And
you.
they go, that's boring.
That's irrelevant. No, it is not. It matters.
And it matters.
Of course. I hear you.
And the studio never teaches voice.
Right.
And they never teach what I'm talking about. So I try to emphasize that in my class as much as I can. But I also give them a lot of that,
Sure.
what you're talking about.
Let him get messy. A kid
It's always messy.
is messy, right? To create and
Yeah.
allow themselves.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. I was not planning to do this, but hey, we're just in the heat of the moment.
Anyway, that's, if you're asking me what I try to do,
I get you
because
now.
there's too many teachers teaching the moment.
Yeah. You
And
gotta
who've been trained by Strasbourg, who've been
Sure,
trained by,
Sure.
and
But
I,
what happened to the other
but
way?
I wasn't trained by them.
Yeah.
I wasn't trained by them. And the thing that I don't, and I always felt uncomfortable, Cece, when I first came. I started coming when Kazan and Mankiewicz were running the oh, it was great.
It was great.
But what was
That
uncomfortable for me,
that was the great days?
yes,
Yeah.
but I walked, well, these are good days now.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Well,
positive now.
Huh?
It's positive now.
Okay.
I felt Estelle and a few other people. I've worked with Estelle. I love her, but boy, she was, it was like coming down so hard on, it was awful. It was very
It's
destructive, I thought.
It's not a war. It's not,
It's not a war.
It's an acting scene, for Christ's
Enjoy
sake.
it, for God's sake.
Yes, of course. I agree with you.
But what it was uncomfortable for me was going into the studio the first few times and looking around the walls. There's a picture of Lee Strasberg. Oh, good. Let's see what's another picture of Lee Strasberg. Okay. Let's see what's another picture of Lee Strasberg.
Sure.
Oh, and another. And I said, wait a minute. Is this a mausoleum? Is this a memorial? Is this? Are we deifying? Oh, but he was great. I said, I know. I'm sure he was. I never met him. I learned from him.
Yeah.
Through other people and taking other things. I learned, but if he was that great, and I hope he wasn't the one that decided to put these up.
I doubt it.
Because if I were Lee, I would put up all my students. That's my legacy.
Sure.
Not me. And it's this worship of.
Sure. I hear you, but John Strasberg is a very good teacher. The son.
I like John.
Very specific.
Yes, I know.
And very serious about the work.
I like John.
I have so much
No,
respect.
John,
I think he's wonderful.
I'm sure Strasberg was brilliant, but
Yeah.
It's just the deification of any teacher.
Yes. Now we're gonna make
Anyway.
before we to wrap it up because this is good stuff. But
Well, I hope.
like I think it's good stuff.
Yes.
Good things come to an end.
Yes,
But I will
they
bet
do.
you this: when you go home, you're gonna remember this interview. You say, "Wait a minute." Dan is gonna text you. There he is, Andrew, taking a little piece of cheese. You're gonna say that was something, Sissy, with that interview.
This was quite an interview,
It was
Sissy.
quite an interview.
I
Let me
know.
ask you.
Go ahead.
And it's very small answers, very quick answers. Yeah, you're flying. You're gonna hit me with a pillow.
No.
I want very short answers.
Yes.
Okay. When the 5 minutes to finish it up. What matters the most in life?
Love.
What is irrelevant?
Boy, total. What is irrelevant? Material things.
Fuck that. Money is needed.
Money.
We all need money. When people say, "Oh, money's not everything," really?
No, but it's
Money
not.
is everything, Roger.
But certainly, I wasn't thinking of money.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry that I'm so superficial. Money, if you can do much without money.
You got to have it, and
You gotta have it in
so
the
I-
bank, in the piggy bank, whatever
Yeah.
it is. You gotta have a sugar
Well,
daddy or a
then
sugar girl.
I was thinking of other things, not money, and I thought about that.
Yeah.
I guess what is not relevant.
Okay, we're gonna come to that. What hurts? What hurts?
My leg right
Your
now.
leg right now? Your leg,
What hurts?
Yeah.
What hurts?
Yeah.
What we were talking about, I think. The fact that certain values are screwed up today. There's too much emphasis on wrong things.
Too much emphasis on how we look like.
And
In-
on yeah.
You are so
on being a star, on being on
Yeah.
on all of the things we were talking about. It's
It's no essence.
and on getting a quick fix.
Sure.
Everything is fast today.
Click away.
Everything is fast, and
click
some of
away.
the best things in life are not fast. And that's a very big conflict because life is fast, and in order to sometimes succeed, you have to be fast.
What's your priority? Your priority. What would be your priority?
Health, for me right now, keeping my health, and staying busy doing the things I love to do.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I was blocking the camera with a page. I'm sorry. That's the moment.
Doing the things I love, continuing to do just the things I love is my priority, and trying to be positive about life.
The greatest playwright ever lived We agree on William Shakespeare?
The greatest playwright?
Ever lived?
I suppose it has to be Shakespeare.
Your favorite poet, if you have one? Your wife?
Yes, Sarah.
I'm a smart chick. You gotta give me that, Roger.
I would say,
That's your favorite.
my favorite poem is Arthur Gitterman, who was a cousin of mine, distant cousin. He was well known in the 1930s. He wrote a 3-line poem, but he also wrote a lot of poetry. He wrote, "How odd of God to choose the Jews." That was the whole poem.
That was the whole poem?
How odd of God to choose the Jews. And he wrote another thing. So, for Commissioner Moses, who opens and closes, has moved our fish circus away, talking about the fish, that which was down in the lower part of Manhattan. He moved it to Brooklyn, to, what was it, the aquarium. Arthur Gitterman.
What's your favorite actor?
My favorite actor? I don't have one favorite actor.
Well, I know it's a very stupid question, but come on, give me a silly answer. What would be your favorite actor? Somebody that you grew up with and say, oh, I want to be just like him. I want to be like Andrew when I get a little older.
Well,
He's a great guy, Joe. One of my best clients.
Yeah.
One of my best client.
I don't know why she keeps saying that.
Because you're great.
my favorite
Embrace
actor.
it. Embrace your greatness, Andrew. Your favorite actor?
I think the one I have to come up with is Paul Scofield.
Well, that's a very good choice. Very good actor. I like that answer. Favorite book?
On acting, I would say Audition by Michael Shurtleff.
It's a good book. I give you that. I thought you were going to say the Bible, but that's okay. I forgive you. No, it's okay. It's whatever makes you happy. Your
Yeah.
favorite meal?
Hot dogs.
What's that?
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs? The red ones? The ones from Maine or the creepy, crappy ones that you get in New York City?
New York
in
City,
kid
the
food
crappy
center?
ones in New York
You
City.
don't know what's good. You
Of
don't
course,
know what you're missing.
but that's not a meal. You're right.
What's your favorite meal?
Oh man, I guess spaghetti, and I love Italian stuff.
I love Italian
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
All right. The last question that I want to say, because we have to wrap it up, and so much that I want to say, but we covered almost pretty much everything that I wanted to cover about.
Yeah.
I want you to just give one message to Dan on the camera, one message to Abigail, and one message to Noah. Not too long and not too short. But I want you to.
Tough questions.
Oh
Sissy.
yes, baby. You know.
Okay, we're going to do it.
I'm tough.
I know.
Yeah, you
The
know
best
that.
interviews are the tough ones.
Say that again.
The best interviews are the tough ones.
I'm gonna keep that in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's why Robert Frost, I think, well, maybe not.
this is for you, Noah. This is for you, Abigail. Right? This is for you, Dan. To the camera.
For all three?
Oh yeah, one by one. I don't want the same thing for the three. No, specifically, Dan, Noah, and Abigail.
Dan, I am very proud that you have made your work your own, and that you do it in your own way, even if it's the hard way. And I love you. Abbey, you continue to teach me, as well as Dan, I should say, every day. And I'm amazed at the way you have developed your whole life as an artist, and now as a mother and a wife. And that amazes me, to see that transformation. Noah, you taught me patience and to learn to respect and not be judgmental. And it was not easy. But I am so proud of how you have adapted over the last 5 years and made a real life for yourself on your own. And I love you for that.
That's pretty much it. Thank you.